The resurrection of Jesus is one of the key beliefs of Christianity. If Jesus hadn't come back to life, then Christianity is a waste of time, and Jesus was no more than a fraud and a con artist. But to Christians, the resurrection proves the claims Jesus made about himself and his identity as the Son of God. The resurrection also offers hope for this life and a life beyond death. But the importance of the resurrection goes further than this. Many religions respect and honour the life and teachings of a key figure that lived many years ago. It is only Christianity, however, that makes the claim that it is possible to encounter that same leader today. Jesus changed the lives of those disciples over 2,000 years ago, and Christians in the 21st century tell the same story of how that same Jesus has changed their lives too. There are those, however, who would argue that Jesus never did come back to life, and it is important for us to explore those arguments and see if there could be any truth in them. What about the argument that Jesus never actually died on the cross? What we have to remember is that the Romans were expert executioners. The condemned man was first whipped and then forced to drag the crossbeam of his cross to the place of punishment, where the upright shaft was already fixed in the ground. He was then nailed through the wrist to the crossbeam that was then raised high against the upright shaft. Next, the feet were nailed to the upright shaft. People would often die of sheer exhaustion or heart failure. In the biblical accounts of Jesus' death, it states that one of the Roman guards also pierced Jesus' side and lungs, just to make sure he was dead. It is clear, therefore, that when Jesus was taken off the cross, he was dead. So even if he was dead, is it possible that someone, probably the disciples, stole Jesus' body? What's important to remember is that Roman guards were placed around the tomb, and if anyone had tried to steal the body, they would have been noticed. Plus the fact that many of the disciples went on to be arrested or persecuted themselves for their belief in Jesus' resurrection. It seems unlikely that a group of people would risk everything, including their own lives, for something they knew was a lie. The first people to discover the empty tomb were a group of women. Could they have been mistaken and simply got the wrong tomb? The Bible clearly tells us that the women made sure they knew where the tomb was. At the same time that Jesus' body was taken down from the cross and carried to the tomb, the woman followed in order to know where to return to after the Sabbath had passed. But it was not just a case of an empty tomb. The women and the disciples claimed to have seen Jesus alive, and what's more, Paul, one of the founders of the early church, writes that Jesus also appeared to over 500 men and women at one time. The arguments against the resurrection can easily be answered. The stories of lives changed even today because they claim they've encountered the living Jesus Christ cannot so easily be dismissed. The question is, what do you think?